Welcome to today's session on the topic of generative AI, using AI as a growth engine to accelerate startup success. My name is Tony Yang. I run the growth team here at Mucker, which just basically means I get the opportunity to work with many smart founders and help them strategize their go-to-market. Really, the stars of today's show are our friends Rosemary Brisco and Bob Mitton. They are both consultants and experts in the AI space. And I am personally super excited to hear all the things that they're going to talk about and show us in terms of how to leverage AI for growth. So, Rosemary, Bob, thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And hi, everyone. Bob and I are thrilled to be here. As Tony said, we have a lot to cover. You will be given the slides later so that you can use the links that are embedded. As just getting started, I want you to know that in the past 18 months, we now have an abundance of data that proves that adding AI to your workflow produces dramatic productivity results. So let's get started. So first things first, if you don't already have a ChatGPT paid account, please sign up for one. It's the leading AI chatbot with the most features. If you are using the free version 3.5, it's really like having a high school student do your work. One of the things about ChatGPT is that it's really the smartest model that's out there right now. You can browse the web, you can upload multiple files and give ChatGPT instructions about how to analyze and summarize the data. And this can just save huge amounts of time doing that. Now, with the Plus account, which is $20 a month, the only drawback to that is that you have to go in and manually set to the data controls to turn them off so that your private data, your conversations are not being shared with the model. If you use the team account, you have built-in security and privacy for your chats. The only drawback with Teams is that you can't share links of your prompts out. And it turns out that's kind of a real hassle. I'm really hoping that OpenAI fixes that. I also want to say that don't chase tools. Really select the best tools, a couple of tools, and start to learn them. Tools are changing so fast. You have to know all the terms and conditions on the tools that you license and about how they train on your data and so on. So let's talk about the most important limitations. Of course, there's lots of limitations with using AI, but the first thing to know is that AI responds to your prompt based on the patterns from its data. So you aren't really talking to a human who can truly understand your conversations, even though it feels like it's a human. And AI gets things wrong, and its responses may sound so convincing, but they're not. So you always have to have a human in the loop. And we get asked so often about hallucinations. Let me just tell you why they happen. I mean, training data sets doesn't have the knowledge required to answer the questions. And so in those cases, when it doesn't have the data, it's just going to make something up. It doesn't know how to say, I don't know. And you want to make sure that you're going to verify any information that you're going to use in a significant way. And they don't learn. They're limited to recombining existing information from static training. LLMs were designed to make slow and steady changes. And of course, the whole legal risks and copyright issues, that's just too big to talk about today, but you just need to be aware that they are there. And now I'm going to turn it over to Bob.
Hi. Sorry. Hold on just a moment. Sorry. My computer just went away.
Slide 8.
Yes, this is live, believe it or not. There we go. Okay, so there's my mom. There it is. So what we're going to talk about today in terms of product and product launch, this goes across a really large stretch of a company. You go from analysis, strategy, planning to launch, and it cycles back around. The interesting thing here is that AI can affect every single one of the operations that you see here, product, marketing, all the way to legal. To do that would take, I don't know, days. In fact, that's, as an aside, that's what my company does. So if you're interested, ping me later and we can walk you through all of this. But Rosemary and I only have a couple minutes with you today, so we're going to focus a lot more on the left-hand side here of product and marketing and operations, and how you would take a product to market and use AI to your best advantage. So with that, let me give it back to Rosemary.
All right, understanding your competition. It's really critical to your business success as a startup, and it's going to allow you to understand your market position. It helps you to highlight what makes your startup unique and attract your target audience that way. It also, doing competitive research with AI, it will allow you to find market gaps and potential threats so you can prepare for these challenges. And it's great for setting benchmarks. So what we did for you today is we created a custom GPT that you can use on your own to do your own competitive analysis. And a custom GPT is simply just a personalized chatbot designed to perform specific tasks. So I'm going to show you what we were able to do in no time at all. I'm going to just use a couple of payment processing companies. So when you get the deck, you can come here and you can always see what the prompt was. And so in this ChatGPT, custom GPT, we're going to see first an overview of all the companies. So it gives you a nice overview of each company. It'll do a SWOT analysis. You don't have to do anything to have this happen other than to list your competitor names. Also include your own names so you can see how you compare. It's going to give you a comparative analysis. It's going to look at markets and industries, awards in the last 3 years, financial performance if it's publicly available. I picked sites that would be public so that we could get information from their investor sites. And how customers evaluate competitors. So what I did here was I asked my GPT to go out and look at certain types of review sites like Trustpilot and so on. And so it's pulling some data from there. And when that information, competitors' customers, is available, it will return that. But of course, this kind of information needs to be out on the web for AI to find it. And it's using Bing to do that. Executive summary criteria, revenue growth, market share, executive summary. And I just want to show you how darn fast this is. So let me just go here. And I click here. All I have to do is type in here 2 company names. And within less than 30 seconds, I'm going to have all of the data that I just showed you. There is no way anybody can do it as fast as this. So keep this URL handy. You're going to probably use it a lot. And if you have a Plus account, you can share that URL of your competitive research to other people. The next big thing that as startups you want to do is to do market research and gather insights about product categories, the market, and this allows you to better focus your offerings and understand your customers. So once again, we created a unique custom GPT for you to allow you to do market research. And in this case, we are using Mario's company, thank you very much, to go out and do this prompt. So when you're using our GPT, you want to give the prompt as much information as possible. Typically, I would probably do 3 times this much to give the bot as much information as possible. And then let me show you what that looks like in the return from the bot. So you'll always see the prompt here, and then it's going to go into a market report, overview, trends, adoption rates, barriers. It's going to provide you a little bit more competitor analysis. You really need both of these custom GPTs because they give different information. And in fact, every time you run one of these or run any prompt, you will get slightly different answers. Customer insights, this is really great to see common pain points, feature requests, and so on. Data analysis and recommendations. And one thing that I do is I always ask in my custom GPTs for the GPT to give me follow-up questions. And I do this for everything because once you read these, you can then continue your conversation with the AI and ask these questions. And back to Bob.
So now you've seen, and you can take a lot from what Rosemary has done about market research, about customer research, about competitive research. And now you can take all of that, knowing that their preference is there, and you can drill down in any section, right? And now we can take that information and start to look at our target audience and find out what unique aspects we have in terms of our products or in features and channels and regulations, really explore the product market fit. I'm going to use the Rabbit R1 here as an example because we kind of know what happened here, and hopefully we can show what the AI would have led them to based on what we're talking about versus what they did, and get some before and after. So I'm going to ask it about the customers, right, and the market. You can go in and say, what are the demographics? What are the psychographics of my potential customers? How do they like the product? And we put together a custom GPT here for doing that. But the idea was that I can go in and ask it that, and then ask it what are the potential barriers to adoption and how I might overcome those. And you can see, I think, the results there. If you can click on that for me, Rosemary, you can see it comes up with a pretty good description. You can see the prompt that I used there for doing that, put it in as a table and the like. So the next slide gives you the highlight of that, which is the barriers to adoption and what are some of the strategies that you could use to overcome that. So you can get an idea. So looking at that, price sensitivity, privacy, compatibility, how does it work with the phone in my pocket? How is it better than the phone in my pocket, right? But it's all about the user experience and how they perceive you, and then the strategies that they use that are suggested, and you can decide whether Rabbit used them or not. Talk about how to overcome those. If you go to the Rabbit website, you might see that they didn't do that. So the upshot here is that you're going to want to go through and use this to at least surface the ideas that you might need to deal with as you do your product launch and as you go to market. What is it that the customer, the community, the user experience is, so that you can adopt that to your go-to-market strategy. So based on that, we talked about gathering market info, and on the next slide, we're going to do some really fun stuff. So we talked about gathering market info, we talked about competitive info, we talked about product market fit. Now let's turn our attention to the marketing channels. We do a lot of stuff in the same way that we did, gathering information about competitors. You can gather information about channels and in terms of how does your marketing message get out there. You can do some analysis on that. You can also have it do research on, what are the best channels for engagement rates or for conversion rates or cost per acquisition or CPM, CPC, all of that stuff. All of that is good fodder for having the AI analyze those data sets and come up with a strategy for your marketing budget. And then you can do some predictive analytics. So if my budget is this way, what can I expect from each one of these channels? So that's where the fun begins. And that's what I've got on the right hand of the slide. I also put together a custom GPT for you, but rather than run that, I'll just kind of show you the results. We put in a sample marketing plan and a budget for social media. And then I had said, take that, analyze that based on my past performance and based on what I'm trying to do with my marketing plan, and give me a revised budget and explain to me why you revised that budget per dollars and per percentage of my budget and what that is. So I can optimize my budget based on dollars, based on reach, based on cost per acquisition, anything you want. You can start to get some really fun analysis going and continue to refine that over time. You can also take that, and as Rosemary said, you can ask additional prompts. What's the best channel for the startups? What's the best, lowest CPA? What's the best channel for highest engagement rates or lowest bounce rates or things like that? So continue to interrogate the AI afterwards, modify the plan per their suggestions, and then see what it does again. So it's an iterative process and really get you honed in on your channel selection and best bang for your buck. Based on that, Rosemary.
All right, so AI is great for doing a lot of research into pricing. So in my first example, I'm going to use AI to get pricing data for an industry. So I went to ChatGPT and I asked it to give me current pricing models used by leading SMB inventory management software providers and to put the data in a table format. I also asked some other questions so that I could get the most out of the responses. What are the average prices? Evaluate the impact of pricing, of adding demand forecasting and customizable reporting. And now I have an entire table that shows the providers, the pricing models, and then of course you have to go over here. So there's a lot of information right here about the basic tiers, premium tiers. We can go down and learn about the features that differentiate these different peers that they have, the ranges of pricing, which is really great if you're trying to price your product. You can also do things once you have this information and look at growth projections based on price A versus price B. And of course, my fabulous follow-up questions to stimulate the discussion further with your AI. And it is fantastic at taking huge data sets and going beyond what a pivot table can do for you. It allows you to crunch vast amounts of data. I've done it with thousands and like 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 rows of data. And it allows you to find important insights and make better decisions. So in this example here, I took a data set of 8,000 rows of data. I had 3 years of revenue by store, by month, by device, and by channel. And I was asking the AI to give me sales forecasting for different growth scenarios. And I asked for, maybe 5 different revenue growth scenarios. Similar growth, 10%, 20, hyper growth. And you can put those amounts right into your chat prompt and ask it to come back with the data. And what's really great here is that here it's showing how many units you have to sell in order to do that. And then you follow up and you start asking, how can I meet hypergrowth? What do I have to do over the next 5 years to reach these targets? Content creation. So AI's creativity really can surpass traditional brainstorming methods, and that's because it can access and process a knowledge base that far exceeds what one person has in their brain. And this is one of my favorite people in the SEO community, and we now have a new floor for content creation. And I'm going to show you some fabulous ways to use it. So let's have some fun, and I'm going to show you a practical application that could decrease homepage bounce rate by, I believe, up to 40%. And a bounce rate is when someone comes to your homepage and immediately leaves. And people do not buy from the homepage. You have to get them inside. So first, a big thank you to Marty Cornish from WordPack, who came forward and offered his website for this demo. So let me show you what I did when he sent me his URL. I went to the page and I said, okay, I don't really know what his company does. I don't really know what those people are doing. I can barely read the small text that's there. And I'm not really sure what AI has to do with anything. So I went to AI and I asked it, what is this page about? And Marty, in a very smart way, put a lot of information on this page, but it was below the fold. So I now had a really great understanding of what the company did. And so my next thing was to ask the bot, I said, okay, this banner text talks about AI, but do customers really care about that? Because AI is now being embedded in everything. So I asked it to create an insightful banner title and a brief description of how WordPack benefits its customers. And we came back with this example text, and I don't think that Marty can speak, but when I showed him this, he thought this was a pretty good example of what his company did. But I didn't want to stop there because I thought this wasn't going to get us to a reduction of 40%. So I went to Midjourney and I ran this prompt that you see over here. And I took the content that ChatGPT gave me, and I had my designer lay this out in a way that was going to be most impactful. In the appendix that you'll get, we may not have time to look at them, but you're going to see techniques for improving your image prompts. Please don't use Dolly. Everybody's using Dolly images, and we're going to have a web that just looks all the same with images. You probably are seeing them already. So who thinks this is going to be better than this? All right. Another great way for startups to get visibility is to post on LinkedIn, whether it's paid or free. So what we did here was I took 11 LinkedIn posts from WordPack, and I copied them into a Word document and posted them. And let me tell you what I asked for. So I asked for posts. I asked the AI to comment on sentiment, make recommendations on how they can be improved. I asked the AI to look at a lot of the comments and reactions and show me examples where the post failed, because that's the only way you're going to improve if you see that. So the next thing that happens within 5 seconds is I get a way to improve my posts. And Marty was already, writing in a very positive and professional way, but it wasn't hitting the mark. We were only getting low posts and reactions and reposts. So following these examples can really help you boost your engagement. And still picking on Marty, I took one of his LinkedIn posts, which, looked really nice, right? It has this great, what looks like a white paper. And it had low engagement. And I thought, okay, what do we need to do to improve that? So of course, I asked the AI how to do that. And we came back with a revised version that Marty said was right on the mark. So very easy to do. You've got these posts. You can use this to look before you post on social media, run it through an AI. To me, I think the best AI to use for this type of thing is Claude. Claude is really cheap. It's like $160 a year. And one thing about ChatGPT is it can be a bit on the verbose side, but I think Claude has a much better tone. And of course, you're going to need images, right? You need images to go with your social posts so that they really catch people's attention. So I created this prompt and put this in Midjourney. And I left this text in here just to make the point that even though Midjourney and other AIs can now lay down text that you give it, it doesn't do a very good job of it. So my recommendation is to get Midjourney to create your images, take the best one, take a screenshot, drop it into PowerPoint or slides, and then add your text in that version. So then you have the best of both worlds. And we can do the same type of thing with landing pages. So here's a quote I wrote to create a landing page for a learning company called EduQuest. And immediately I got back, well, it probably took 30 seconds. I got back 4 variations of look and feel. Now, it didn't give me all the bottom, but this is enough for you to go to your designer or start building in WordPress or whatever CMS you're using. I also created logos as well for Marty. The great thing about this is it gets you some ideas. And if you're working with a designer, you can just say, this is what I like. Give me something like this, but change this. And I mean, I did a whole slew of these. It's just great at doing logos now. It didn't used to be good at logos. We can also create amazing product and packaging ideas using Midjourney. These were all created using Midjourney. And we did ads also. So this is really, we call these things first draft layouts. These are ready for Photoshop. And it gives you a sense of, you put all your thoughts into this prompt and it's going to spit out something. The one thing that AIs don't do very well is hands. So just be cautious that somebody might have 6 fingers or 4. Are there any questions before we go to the next section? Tony, what have we got? Anything that I've covered?
I think we covered most of these. I mean, there's a question from earlier on. I'll just ask it right now. How good is GPT at pulling fundraising information? Is it sort of equivalent to using Crunchbase or better or worse? That's one.
Well, I'd have to really know what you mean by fundraising data. That's kind of a very broad term. If there's data that you're looking for that's out on the web, it's very likely that the LLM has taken that data, or you can find it using the AI because it's going to search with Bing. But if it's something that's behind a password protected wall, you're not going to get that information.
Yep. Great. And then I'll ask one more from the audience. So let's see, let's ask this one. Where can one find the ChatGPT data limitations in terms of data process, number of queries, etc.?
Okay, Steve, I don't know how to answer that. I'd have to talk to you, get a little bit more information about what you're trying to get there. So I know you have my email address. Anything else before I move on?
I will mention that I have processed spreadsheets with 25 million entries in them before, and it's done it no problem. So hopefully it's got enough for you.
Cool. Well, let's keep going because I know there's a lot of stuff in your presentation.
Yes. Okay. So you're right. There is a lot of stuff. Okay. So, all right. So the next thing is, if you're going to be creating what we call long form content, that usually is things like blogs, it could be white papers, whatever. I'm going to show you how to design your own repeatable content creation framework. So what used to take writers days and weeks, we can now do in one session. Maybe it takes an hour. It just depends on how much information and how detailed your long form content is. The way to scale your work with AI in content creation is to chain together tasks. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to take you through all those steps in one prompt chain. Let me show you what that looks like. You do not need to read all of this text, but what I'm doing is I'm turning content creation into this efficient, consistent task through prompting. It's a new way to have AI support you, and it's a real conversational approach. So what I'm doing here is I start with brainstorming. So in this example, I'm working with a cybersecurity company. The goal is to educate customers. I wanted to give me all the topics and subtopics that we should cover that relate to 2024. So it's going to go and it's going to do its thing. I'm going to have the opportunity when it finishes spitting out all this information to then ask more questions and refine that brainstorming. Staying in the same chat process, I'm going to go and ask the bot to identify the pain points. I'm going to include the personas that we have. If you don't have personas already for your business, I'm going to show you a slide in the appendix that shows you how to do that. You don't really have to tell the bot anymore to search Bing. It just does that now automatically. And I do ask it to include sources, but it doesn't always do that. I've been in SEO for 25 years, and I far prefer the data, the keyword research data that I get from ChatGPT compared to the paid services that I use. Now, these paid services are now starting to embed AI, but they're expensive. Why do I need that? So I'm asking the AI in a table format to look at the high value keywords that I should be using based on all the content that it sees. And remember, it has a memory now, and it's remembering everything that it has before. So, I am telling it to include all the knowledge from above just in case it's having a bad day. So I go to online research, and I do that in a couple of ways. I always ask for topics and subtopics and keywords. I usually ask for that twice, even though it's part of the previous chain. I give it competitor pages, and I ask it to look at those pages. Those pages might include things like investor pages, product pages, blogs, whatever. I sometimes have tried Wikipedia pages on a topic if it's really, really good. Then I just stop in ChatGPT and I go out to Perplexity, which is another AI tool. And it's a great tool because it gives me citations. It gives me the source of its links. If I have time at the end, I'll show you what it's like to use Perplexity if you're not using it. And you take any important data that you find in Perplexity and you add it back into this chain process. And now the AI has all this information, your comments, your feedback, and we can then ask it to give us a content outline. And you can refine that. And then once you're happy with the content outline, the best way to go forward and get written content is to do it section by section. And what I do is I ask it to write one section. I copy that into a Word document to come back to so that I can edit it, and I go on to the next session. Asking the AI to write the whole blog post or whatever in one go is a really bad idea because it's not going to have all the information in the way that you would include it. And the way you start with doing something like this is you break down your tasks and you create these chain of prompts. Any questions on that? Because that's kind of an important thing in content creation. All right. So we now can we now have a great way to speed the sales negotiating process in a really cost-effective way. So I was a startup in the dot-com days, And I know how expensive it is to have your contracts reviewed by lawyers. So Marty gave me this great example of a terms and conditions that he just signed. And I asked the bot to analyze the terms and conditions and identify any potential issues or concerns. I also asked it to write the email to the prospective customer about this contract, including the responses to my concern. And within less than a minute, it came back and gave me the sections that it found a problem with. So it gave me section by section what it felt was an issue, and then it wrote the email. You can also upload one of your own terms and conditions and tell it to follow that. So you can upload multiple documents and tell it to follow that. All right, and over to Bob.
So we're going to move to sales strategy and specifically talk about what is it you want to message to the market and when you're actually going out to the market and how you might build that based on what you currently have. So messaging's all about creating the words, the phrases, the associations that lead customers to you, right? So what do you want them to think about your brand or your company? How do you want them to feel about the brand or the product? And what do you want them to do about it, right? And you can analyze Coke and Nike and Apple and things like that. And you can look at that, and they are very, very consistent about their message going out to the market. So how can we do that for ourselves or use AI to help us do that, right? So if I was, for example, to do one of my former companies, right? I want people to think that I need a technology partner that is knowledgeable, approachable, and genuinely invested in my success. I want them to feel inspired that my organization can help them achieve that. I want them to feel confident that they chose the right partner. And what do I want to do? I want them to engage with us. They want them to consult with us. I want them to explore opportunities with us. So you get an idea, kind of the three-stage messaging architecture that I've used that I think is very effective. If I were to go to the rabbit again, R1, and I know one of our audience members doesn't like this one, but what do I want if I was the tech executive working at Rabbit? What do I want people to think, right? What do I want them to do? And how do I want them to feel? And you can get in, I filled in the blanks here, but you get an idea. It generates these proposals for how you want to message to customers, right? And from that, I can then take that to build a message, right? So I'm going to assume you guys all have the ability to do a think, feel, do. We showed you how to do keywords. I think we're on 2 slides from now, Rosemary. You take that think, feel, do. You can then take your value proposition and you can take a set of keywords. Next slide, Merv. And feed that in and ask the prompt, right? You are the executive, you are the CEO. This is what the value proposition is. Here are some of the keywords. You could put in the personas, and I know we're not going to talk about personas, but that's a really interesting piece of information you can add in. What do I want these people to think, feel, do? You can put in the psychographics and demographics we put in earlier. All of that into the mix and say, okay, how do I build messaging for this audience, for this product, for this company? And so I did that, and you can see on the next slide what the results came out to be. I asked it, give me an executive summary, give me some takeaways, give me some themes, and some proposed taglines. You can, make your own assessments on whether, Rabbit did that or not. But you get the idea. This analysis can get you started on where to focus your energy, where your current messaging may not align with it. Maybe you want to revisit that. Maybe you like your messaging. Like we said, AI is all about giving you options. It's not going to tell you the perfect truth. That's why you have to have a human in the loop, right? So if you did that, and actually here's a really interesting exercise. Take your ideal customer persona based on that messaging, tell the AI to act like that, and then interrogate the persona. Ask it, what would you think of this? How would you react to this messaging? How would you react to these pricing changes? How would you react to the great exercise to try? It's a way to flex your muscles, get a lot of different scenarios play out and see how you would react to those. And potentially you've got them covered. Potentially it highlights some things, surfaces some ideas that maybe you haven't covered yet and that you would want to. So a lot of different scenario and situational training that you could use an AI to prepare your company for go-to-market for. All right, with that, back to Rosemary.
Great, thank you. I'm going to show you the key to more easily stay on message when using ChatGPT. So you can use special rules called custom instructions that you give to the AI once that it will refer to every time you do a prompt. So these rules tell GPT how to act or what to do with each prompt. They come in 2 sections. You're going to set this up in personalization under settings. Oh, it's right here. So the first part, it's a 2-part section. The first part is really all about you. It's about your company. It's about some of your messaging. If you don't know what your messaging is, give the AI samples of your work and ask it to describe the messaging. So you can put all that in the top. You have 1,500 characters. The second part, to me, is the most interesting, and it's how would you like the ChatGPT to respond? So I have given you an example of what I use, which is almost 1,500 characters. So I give it a lot of information about what I want it to do and how I want it to respond. All right, some more fun on messaging. So Mario Martinez from Vengreso, we had a great conversation. He was talking about challenges of selling the most lucrative products. And when you looked at his homepage, you sort of had to dig under products to find some of his products. And we wanted to find a way to get more people to his most lucrative products. So we used Mario's expertise with AI to craft a better message that would allow the page to much more effectively drive visitors to the top products. And we also wanted to showcase to the users the benefit to them, which I think a lot of people forget. So that's an important thing to remember. While it's great to show these numbers, our goal is to get people inside. So here's what we did, and we did it in a really bold way. And we said, okay, prospect better, sell more, book more meetings, save 1 hour a day, boost social engagement. And this, I'm positive, will allow more people to get to his high value products and also reduce the bounce rate. I use AI for all my presentations. It is fantastic at optimizing the structure and flow, telling me the sentiment. It can analyze industry-specific decks. We're going to show you examples using it for a client and an investor. It helps understand the objections that your presentations might generate. You can create tailored versions so easily. And when I talk about creating these versions, it's the text for the version. It's not going to create the actual presentation. One of my favorite tools to do great decks is beautiful.ai. I think it's $18 a month, and you'll have beautiful layouts. All right, so let me show you what we did here. So this is the client pitch deck. I asked the AI to create 3 alternative versions that will resonate better with the client. I wanted it to develop a content outline and text for each slide based on the provided presentation. And then I asked it to tell me which of those presentations was better and to explain its reasoning. So let me show you what the results look like. So here you can see that I uploaded the presentation. So if you're uploading anything that's very private, make sure that you have your privacy settings adjusted. And then it came back with 3 unique variations: efficient and innovative focus, 2 cost savings and ROI focus, and 4 technology and innovation focus. It did not tell me which one was better, but I could then have reprompted and asked it to tell me that. Next, I took WorkPac's investor deck. And when I saw it, the first thing that hit me was the slides were a little on the busy side. It might be hard for an investor to really get at the most important elements of the presentation. So I uploaded this and I asked the AI to critique the presentation and recommend improvements. I already told it that I thought it was too cluttered. So it is going to come back and tell me based on that which slides to improve. And then I asked it to predict potential reactions we might get from investors when they receive this deck. And that's a real critical question, because you want to know if your presentation is going to hit the mark. And so first, it's going to look at the overall structure and make recommendations. And then it's going to go through and give slide-by-slide specific feedback. And this is a great way, I do this with presentations, it's just a great way to stay on message, to have a good flow with things. And final summary. So you can see strong team with relevant experience and so on. And this is simply a way to improve this so those aspects of the presentation come through. And if you were doing this on your own, you would be able to continue that conversation. So where do you start? Really, you start by embracing it for every project. Every day when you start a new project, you ask yourself how an AI might do a better job or might assist you in some way. And the best way to understand its potential is really just to start using it. You have to use it for at least, I would say, 10 to 20 hours till you really understand it. And that's another reason not to be using a bunch of tools, is because every AI has a different tone about it, and you want to figure out the best features and the best tone for your kind of work. All right, appendix. So here in the last few minutes, this is the best way to prompt. State the problem, the process, solution, and the final recommendation. So you can just take these sentences and run this prompt, and you'll see what a great prompt output that you're going to get. I think one of the biggest drawbacks that I've seen with people starting out with AI is they run a prompt, they don't like the answer, and they think, oh, AI doesn't work. But AI is all about a conversation. It's the same thing as when you're talking to someone you work with. You're going to give them all kinds of information about a project, and you're going to answer their questions. You have to do the same thing for the AI. These are some advanced techniques that you can add. I think my very favorite is that if it's a really important prompt, I'm going to write down everything I want out of that prompt, and then I'm going to ask the AI to write the prompt for me. I don't know why it doesn't do that already when I give it the information, but it's a great way to learn how to write really great prompts and become what we call a prompt engineer. And a little bit more information on hallucinations and how to work around them. One thing to remember is that, if you want to be creative, you should just expect hallucinations. So the other thing that you can do is you can provide your own sources and then ask the bot to respond using only your sources. This is my example slide on how to create personas. This text here generated this table, which gave me the personas, the demographics, buying behavior, motivations, challenges, and so on, and content for awareness, consideration, and decision-making. You just can't beat AI for creating personas as your first step. These are refinement descriptors to use when using Midjourney. This will show you, horizontal and so on. I love this one, stylize 1,000. I don't know why it's written like that, but that's what the AI responds to. There is this fascinating little tool that costs about $40 for a lifetime membership. Let me just show you how cool this is. So you can go here and let's see, let me show you. Okay, so what does Mucker Capital do? And so the reason you want to use a tool like this is you want to know what the AIs are saying about you. So this gives you a very fast way to get to all the AIs quickly. It does 6 at a time. And on our site, we have an AI readiness assessment tool. It's free. It takes at least 10 minutes to get through. Please try it out. We have also a Google Sheet that we keep up to date, and it's what model to use to get the best results. So I've just taken these 3, well, there's more actually. There's more models on here, but best use cases, best features, limitations, and so on. And this is how you can get in touch with us.
The whole idea behind this session was, how can we utilize AI to help many of our startups, right, figure out how to scale growth? So we talked about competitive intelligence, we talked about market intelligence, we talked about personas and ICP, pricing, even marketing strategy, messaging. So there's a lot. Bob and Rosemary was super nice and kind enough to provide links to their custom GPTs. To wrap things up, again, if you guys want to reach out to Rosemary and Bob, you can see their websites there, the additional contact information, QR codes even. And if you guys want to learn about additional tools, I just want to give a shout out to one of our Mucker portfolio companies, AI Top Tools. It's a directory of AI tools that our founder had basically start to gather and categorize. And so definitely check that out as a resource. Until next time, thanks everyone for staying with us, and have a great rest of your day.